I celebrated another birthday this week. Oh, I'm a Canadian, so I can say I am now 19 Celsius. You do the conversion, I'm too old. Anyway, another birthday got me thinking about passing time. Actor and comedian Bob Hope joked about a lot of things in his day, including getting older. When he turned 70, here's what he had to say. He said, "I still chase women, but only downhill." When he turned 80, he said, "Oh, that's the time of your life when your birthday suit even needs pressing." When he turned 90, he says, "You know you're getting old when the candles cost more than the cake." And when he turned 100 years old, he said, "You know, I don't feel old. As a matter of fact, I don't feel anything until about noon, and then that's time for my nap." One of the funniest people ever, Bob Hope, lived a long life. He actually made it to 100 years of age. Thanks for the memories, Bob. Evangelist Billy Graham lived into his 100th year. George Burns lived to see 100. Kirk Douglas, 103. And then, of course, there's Kane Tanaka, a celebrity. Did you know that? Kane is a Japanese woman believed to be the oldest living person on earth. She is 117 years of age. 117 years, that's about 43,000 days and counting, give or take a few dozen leap years. I wonder in all her days how many times she has thought this. I'll get to that later. Oh, that can wait. No hurry, I got lots of time. Well, back when I wore a younger man's clothes, to quote the piano man, Billy Joel, I was a huge Canadian Football League fan. One of my favorite teams to watch was the Calgary Stampeders. And one of the reasons I liked to watch them was this guy, Terry Evanson, a tremendous Canadian athlete who for 14 years would play for, 4 different CFL teams, catch 600 passes. He gained nearly 10,000 yards running with the ball. He caught 80 touchdowns, including a Canadian Football League record 109-yard touchdown run. Beat that, NFL. Terry Evanson was Rookie of the Year, a Grey Cup champion in 1970, twice the Shenley Award winner as Most Outstanding Canadian Player, a 7-time All-Star, and he's a member of the Canadian Football Hall of Fame. No kidding. And did he have great hands? In 14 years of playing professional football, he only fumbled the ball 3 times. Not bad for a 5-foot, 10-inch man in a land of giants. No wonder he was a favorite of so many Canadian football fans. Well, it was a number of years ago when Georgian College announced that Terry Evanson was coming to their theater as guest speaker. You can bet I was thrilled just to be able to go and see this guy and listen to him talk about his gridiron greatest moments and share some behind-the-scenes football stories. That's what I thought. But much to my surprise, he didn't talk about football at all. He had a more pressing topic to discuss that day. When Terry Evanson took the stage, he had a mission. His topic was Carpe Diem, seize the day. You see, some years after Terry retired from pro football, he was driving through an intersection when another motorist came through a red light and hit Terry's car. The impact of the crash was so great that Terry was ejected out of the back window of his Jeep, onto the pavement, headfirst into the curb. Needless to say, his life would never be the same. Terry would survive, but he would survive with horrific injury. For 2 weeks, he was in a coma, near death. When he finally awoke, he didn't recognize his wife, his kids, his friends, or even himself in the mirror. Terry Evanson literally did not know who he was. Terry's brain had lost all long-term memory, 44 years of life all gone, and his short-term memory badly impaired. It took more than a decade for Terry to relearn how to live, how to walk, how to talk, how to eat, how to read, how to brush his teeth and dress himself, and how to behave around other people. And while he recovered to the point of being able to drive to our theater and stand on that stage and speak to us, well, allow me to paraphrase from my notes so you can understand how he explained what we could not see. "I'm so happy to be at Georgian College and will meet many wonderful people today," he said. "And I'm truly pleased to meet you. But please forgive me if you run into me somewhere sometime tomorrow or the next day and I don't remember you. Because tomorrow I won't remember that I was even here. And right now, I don't have a clue where I'm going to be tomorrow. I don't remember playing football. I see pictures but have no memory that I was even there. Because of my accident, I have very little capacity to remember. Tonight, when I fall asleep, everything I did today, everyone I met, will be gone from my memory forever. I drove my car here today. I followed a map to get here, and I have a map to get myself home, and I have my wife's phone number written there because sometimes she needs to come and rescue me. My doctors and family have been so good to me and so patient while I recovered, and they're helping me even still today." But he said, "It makes me sad because I know that I put these people through so much with my condition. It must be so hard for them. This morning I was annoyed because my daughter Jennifer was still in bed. I told my wife she should be up and awake. She looked at me for perhaps the 100th time, and she said, 'Terry, your daughter has cancer.' Every day is a new day, and from the moment I wake up," he says, "I'm planning to be a good person. I just want to do everything to the best of my ability." He then said this, "I'm here today to tell you this, Carpe Diem, seize the day. I have to live for today, because today is the only day that I will ever know." What an amazing story, and what an important lesson. In the dictionary, carpe diem is actually defined as, quote, "an exclamation used to urge someone to make the most of the present time," unquote. Carpe diem was a Latin phrase first used by the Roman poet Horace in the 1st century BC. It literally means pluck the day. It was his way to express the idea that we should make the most of life while we can. In my teaching, I'm often dealing with young people who have their whole lives ahead of them and who often have very little respect for the clock, little concern with how much time is left in the game for them. I remember thinking that. I've got my whole life ahead of me. To help my students grasp the importance of good time management, sometimes I use this little thought provoker. Now imagine, there's a bank that credits your account every morning with $86,400. How cool would that be? But there are stipulations. It carries over no balance from day to day. Every evening deletes whatever part of the balance you failed to use that day. What would you do? Withdraw it and use it, I suspect. Each of us has such a bank. It's a bank of time. Every morning it credits us with 86,400 seconds. Every night it writes off as lost whatever you failed to invest to good purpose. It carries over no balance. It allows no overdraft. Each day it opens a new account for you. Each night it burns the remains of the day. If you fail to use the day's deposits, the loss is yours. There's no going back. There's no drawing against tomorrow. You must live in the present on today's deposits. Invest it wisely to get from it the utmost in health, happiness, and success. The clock is running. Make the most of today. Carpe diem. Treasure every moment that you have. Yesterday is history. Tomorrow is a mystery. Today is a gift. That's why we call it the present. Time is free, yet priceless. Time is something you cannot keep, but you can spend. Time, once lost, can never be recovered. Time waits for no man. Not even legendary NFL coach Vince Lombardi, who once defended his team's loss this way. "We didn't lose the game. We just ran out of time." Yes, every sporting event has a clock or a limited number of innings. Every calendar has a last page and a last date. Time does run out. In Luke chapter 12, verses 15 to 20, Jesus warned a group of people who had gathered to hear him speak about how they should use their possessions and their time. Watch out. Be on your guard against all kinds of greed. Life does not consist of an abundance of possessions. And he told them this parable. The ground of a certain rich man yielded an abundant harvest. He thought to himself, what shall I do? I have no place to store my crops. Then he said, this is what I'll do. I'll tear down my barns and build bigger ones, and there I will store my surplus grain. And I'll say to myself, you have plenty of grain laid up for many years. Take life easy, eat, drink, and be merry. But God said to him, you fool, this very night your life will be demanded from you. Then who will get all that you have prepared for yourself? This man was materially blessed by God. Verse 16 says his land yielded an abundant harvest. Instead of using his wealth and success to further the will of God, he put all of his time and energy into managing and accumulating wealth with larger barns and long-range plans for an early retirement so he could eat, drink, and be merry. But God calls him a fool. That very night, his time on earth would be done. Shakespeare must have found out the hard way when he wrote this, I wasted time, and now doth time waste me. Let me ask you something. Who do you trust? Absolutely trust. Your father, your mother, your spouse, best friend, your physician, an auto mechanic, or a financial advisor? If they sat down and recommended a solution to a medical or a financial or a family problem, would you take their advice? How about Solomon? Would you take his advice? In Proverbs 3, he says to trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to him, and he will make your paths straight. Author C.S. Lewis said this, there'd be no sense in saying you trusted Jesus if you do not take his advice. And Jesus clearly thought time is of the essence. In John 9:4, he says, as long as it is day, we must do the works of him who sent me. Night is coming when no one can work. In Luke 12:40, he says this, you also must be ready because the Son of Man will come at an hour when you do not expect him. Take his advice now while there's time. You ever heard about the guy who bought a book on how not to be a procrastinator? Read a couple of pages, said, I'll finish this later. We all do that. It's just natural. And maybe you can wait for a few things, but there are some things for which you cannot wait. You ever been late for an airline flight? You ever been shut out of a classroom because the exam had already started? You ever arrived at a surprise birthday party 30 seconds after everybody yelled, surprise? Sometimes you miss the boat. But if you're smart, you realize there's often another boat coming. So don't use that lame old excuse, oh, it's too late now. When that thought pops into your brain, remember this wise old Chinese proverb, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now. But sometimes waiting for the next opportunity isn't even an option. In his favorite speech, I Have a Dream, his famous speech, I Have a Dream, Martin Luther King spoke of the urgency of now. He was speaking to the people of the U.S. and, more importantly, the governmental bodies of the U.S. about equal rights for all Americans. In this speech, he repeats over and over, now is the time. He was saying in no uncertain terms, changes must be made now to eliminate discrimination and second-class citizenship. Not after I take this phone call, not, I'll get to that later, not tomorrow, not next week, now is the time, he said. A lot of folks didn't agree. A lot of people didn't listen. Watch the news. Society is paying the price for that. In his second letter to the Corinthians, chapter 6, verse 2, Paul the apostle seems to understand that. He tells the people of Corinth, behold, now is the accepted time. Behold, now is the day of salvation. In John 4:35-37, Jesus himself says this about why we cannot procrastinate when it comes to sharing the gospel. Do you not say, there are yet 4 months and then comes the harvest? Behold, I say to you, lift up your eyes and look on the fields, that they are white for harvest. Already he who reaps is receiving wages and gathering fruit for life eternal, so that he who sows and he who reaps may rejoice together. For in this case, the saying is true, one sows and another reaps. The well-known proverb of that time, 4 months more and then the harvest, was meant to be a caution. Don't rush the harvest. Let the crops ripen. But Jesus wasn't talking about wheat or soybeans or potatoes. He was talking about a harvest of souls of people who are lost in sin, needed the good news that God loves them and there's a better way to live. Jesus was making the point that this harvest was ripe and ready. Basically, he's saying, what are you waiting for? He's telling us that now is the time to share the gospel with a friend. Now is the time to get involved in your church. Now is the time to help your elderly neighbors. Now is the time to forgive that person who hurt you. Now is the time to share what you have with others who need your help. And now is the time to seriously think about where you will spend eternity. In 1955, Billy Graham reminded his radio listeners during a program, The Hour of Decision, time is the dressing room of eternity. In the few fleeting days of life on this planet, we're given the opportunity to prepare for eternity. Carpe Diem. Seize the day. Jesus told us, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man comes to the Father but through me. In Revelation 3:20, Jesus tells his apostle John this, here I am. I stand at the door and knock. If any man hears my voice and opens the door, I will come in. If you haven't done this already, may I respectfully suggest, now is the time to get up, answer the door, and let him in. Amen.